What's your tagline?
We're going to take this one step at a time because we don't know where this is going to lead. We might be covering hundreds of acres. This is going to be a 2-hour special.
Actually, it's an hour 24 minutes. But
I was like, first of all, we're already lying because it's not 2 hours.
How does Zach pronounce his last name?
So we say Zach Baggins, and I think that he thinks it's Zach Beggins.
Because he, in his dumbass audiobook, called it, he pronounced it strangely, that I swear is not the same way he pronounces it on the TV show, and I was just like, bro, figure your shit out.
Zach Bagans.
The more I watch this show, the more I am worried about your mental health, and B, convinced this dude is not from Earth.
Yeah, I will say, let me go to, people want to know how rich is Zach? $30 million. Zachary Alexander Baggins. I want to go to the wiki and see how he pronounces it. Bagans. Yeah, okay. Wait, what did I say? Did I say the opposite?
No, it was something like that. I don't know.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So he is saying, I guess he would know. It is kind of like a meme in the Ghost Adventures world community, if you will, about his last name, where he says it's Bagans. We all say Baggins.
I refuse.
I was gonna say, I guess he would know, but
I don't know that he would.
But also, people decide how to pronounce their names all the time, so who cares?
Yeah, I change mine every other day.
Me too. So, whatever. I will say, R.I.P. his best companion, his dog Gracie, passed away recently, and he's very sad about it. So condolences.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm still gonna make fun of you, but that sucks.
Yeah. Also, I'm pretty sure that him and his girlfriend broke up too. So I think he's
outside of money. Why is anyone dating this dude?
So
I'm convinced that him and what's the dude's name that overreacts endlessly?
Aaron.
Yeah, they should be a couple.
I agree.
Yeah, definitely Aaron.
I don't know. I actually, because I was listening to a podcast that was like not related to this at all, but for some reason they started talking about Ghost Adventures, and Holly Madison, who was his girlfriend,
like the
fucking
playmate.
Yes.
Weird.
Was his most recent girlfriend. And I think they actually dated before, broke up. They were dating again, and they were keeping it like hush hush because like obviously her life is extremely public. So I think that whatever. But the person said that whatever podcast she has, she said she didn't explicitly say that they broke up, but she said like, my ex's dog died recently, and I don't know what the context was to it. And so I was like, oh, so they're, and anyways, this is like the hubbub about it, whatever. When I started this episode, for some reason I was thinking about that, and I just really want to know, like, what is he like one-on-one? What do you talk to him about? If you are like obviously her life has been really sensational and in public also. So like, I wouldn't say she's like a quote unquote, she's not a normie, right? Like she's not a normal person. So like, obviously you need people like, I don't know, do you meet, but then like when you think about like his line of work, for lack of a better term, like what are their conversations like?
I just picture like, hey honey, what do you want to get for dinner tonight? Some people believe in the existence of Burger King. I personally
Zach's like, well, honey, there are so many possibilities.
He's like, yeah. Anyway, this is episode 321, and we're talking about Ghost Adventures again. So I listened
Woohoo!
to 15-ish hours of the 17 of his fucking stupid Ghost Hunting for Dummies audiobook, which he only reads the like little intro of.
Couldn't even get him to read the whole
Oh my
thing.
god. Well, like honestly, I don't know if I could listen to 17 hours. I mean, I couldn't listen to 17 hours of the other guy that reads it, let alone him. So, but like
So,
he,
go ahead.
like it, just the way his speech pattern. I can't imagine listening to that on a daily basis. Like
I would love
of
it.
just like general life bullshit.
Yeah, like imagine being like working at the DMV and he shows up. Hello, I'm here today because I am trying to get my driver's
Ghost
license
stole my
renewed.
driver's license, and I need a new
Yeah,
one.
so Ghost Hunting for Dummies is essentially like I feel everybody growing up that's listening to this have seen these books where it's like
Yeah,
C++ for dummies or whatever, and it literally is a how-to guide. So I don't know really what I was expecting, but I looked it up on Libby and I was like, oh shit, it's on here. 18
yeah,
hours of just people, but it is like literally a like what's the word? Technical manual,
yeah.
I guess,
It
on how
is
to be a ghost
rough.
hunter. So if you're wanting to learn about like any of the devices that they use, etc., that would be the one. I think that I'm more interested in I Am Haunted,
Yeah,
Living Life Through the
I
Dead, or Dark World Intro into the Shadows with lead investigator of the Ghost Adventures. That is a really long title. He's also wearing like a top hat on that one, which
oh
looks
yeah, he
pretty
is.
cool.
Does
But
it?
on the but in the I Am Haunted, the ghosts are reaching out and touching him inappropriately. So I don't know which one I think is better, but
Yeah, I will absolutely like. If those popped up as audiobooks, I would listen to those. But like, I just like it was on Spotify, so I was like, "Fuck it, I'll listen to this at work. I got nothing
oh,
else to do."
okay.
And I was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god, it's so boring." Because the guy that the like it would have been a 40-hour fucking audiobook if Zach Baggins read it because he just
Yeah.
even reading his intro is
Yeah.
slow as shit. But like, yeah, it's so like again the same thing. Like I don't know what I expected, but like
Yeah.
it was so fucking boring.
Wow.
It's
Um
it's definitely a thing that like you should not listen to or read in like one setting.
oh no. I like really again the only point to that one I feel like is if you're trying to get into paranormal investigation and so you could read like what figure out what you want to buy or
Right.
whatever, but it's not like a skeptical to read it. I need the living through death or whatever the fuck. So I'll look for that. Before we start, I have a snack corner.
Is it the Skyline Chili ice cream?
No, you didn't send that to me yet. I can't even imagine, like, I'm here for savory ice creams and whatnot, but something that's meat flavored, I just don't know.
It like it has oyster crackers and shredded cheese in the ice cream,
You know,
which is just like a texture combination I do not want.
I will try it.
If
I
it
will
was
try it.
vegan, I would try. Like I would try it in a heartbeat. But
Yeah.
I know it's gonna be bad.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about frozen cheese. Oyster crackers, fine. Obviously, I like ice cream that has like chips in it and shit. So I feel like oyster crackers is fine, but I don't know about the texture of frozen
Yeah.
cheese. No, what I have is the Snickers pecan or
Oh, I'm so
pecan.
jealous.
I actually found it a couple weeks ago and we just have like not recorded a regular episode, so I've been saving it, but I cannot resist any longer. Smells delectable. It smells like a Snickers.
Like I can't imagine it's bad. It's probably I just only imagine it's gotta be like a sweeter version of like Snickers.
Yeah, I don't know. I love Snickers. Oh, interesting. It's actually two separate bars. Oh, share size. Okay, I'm gonna take a bite, but I'm gonna move my mic because I know some people do not like listening
No,
to
put
chomping, and
it
I
as
think it.
close as possible.
Okay, here we go. Ready? Can you hear my ASMR, my nails on the chocolate? Hmm. Oh, okay. So it is really good still. It is sweeter from the, and then my only complaint really would be that the reason I like Snickers is because the peanuts are crunchy. The pecans are not very crunchy because they're like a softer nut, you know?
Yeah,
So you're like missing the crunchy element of it. But flavor wise, it's really good.
yeah. I can't imagine that would be bad. Like it's like it's just I don't know. There's no way it would be.
I think the other thing, I'm gonna stop eating it now, but it's so good. I love nougat. The other thing is I feel like there's not enough nuts in it.
Well, pecans are bigger, so
Well, it looks like they've chopped them up.
we've been like talking about because we see it on fucking cooking shows all the time. Specifically, Guys Grocery Games. Damaris does it a lot when she's on there. She does like walnut meat as like a substitute,
Mm-hmm.
and like I really want to like try to make it with like tacos or something.
Walnut, I've had it before as like walnut and like a walnut tofu, like sofrita almost,
Yeah,
and it's really good. I love walnuts.
yeah, same. I don't have any
Okay,
sort of snacks or anything fun to talk about in that aspect.
sorry.
I'm trying to think of
Um,
like I don't think I've had anything
I
interesting in
I
a minute.
yeah, I think my takeaway from it is that the pecans are just like not discernible enough for me to be like, oh yeah, this
Yeah,
is a great change that they've made.
I just assume it would just make it just slightly sweeter, but like Snickers are already so sweet that it like barely would make a difference.
Yeah, and I will say it has been a really long time since I just like had a Snickers bar. Like I've had mini ones, obviously, because it's like Halloween or whatever. I don't just like buy Snickers and eat them though. Um,
Yeah,
so Snick
Snickers were never my go-to.
I like them when I have them, but I'm not like, oh,
Yeah.
I could really go for a Snickers. You know what's really good though is the Snickers ice cream bars.
Oh yeah. When
Those are
when I was
delicious.
in high school, it would be like my mom would be like, "Here's $20 for like lunch for the week or whatever," and I would by like Wednesday would be out of money because I would just buy like the fucking Snickers ice cream bars, just eat a shit ton of them the first 2 days. I have to like beg people for money to get lunch the rest of the week.
Sounds about right. Oh,
Those and the
delicious.
fucking the Reese's ice cream things, very
I
good.
don't think I've had that before.
I did have a habanero cucumber taquitos, and they were disgusting.
Oh, I love them.
Ugh. They were too like I like this is a very dumb complaint, but they were too artificial flavored.
Sure, I could see that.
Like I like the habanero part I thought was good, but like the fake cucumber flavor was like too much and not good to me.
They opened this Japanese like convenience store sort of by me recently, and it's like not fully stocked yet, but I went and got some like drinks and whatever, and they had of course so many crazy chip flavors. They were kind of expensive, right? Because they're
Mm,
imported, but they're like small bags. Like they have, boiled crab and like all kinds of weird, well,
right.
not that boiled crab is weird, but like combos like that. And I got one that was just like cucumber lays, and I haven't tried it yet, but I'm like so interested. Like, I just can't. I don't know. We'll see.
You have to come to New Jersey because we have a can't remember what it's called, but a sort of Mall of America ish type mall here that has like
Hmm.
an entire wing, I guess, that's just like Japanese stores,
That's amazing.
including like stores like that, and then I believe there's an entire store that's just weird vending machines.
Oh,
I'm
amazing. I
like, I
love a
want to
weird
go
vending
so bad,
machine.
but it's one of those ones where it's like it's kind of a pain in the ass to get to, and then you have to like
Yeah.
pay to park on top of everything else and like all that shit. But there's like a fucking
Yeah.
Ferris wheel. It's like one of those malls.
Oh, that's crazy. No, thank you for a Ferris wheel in a mall
Well, yeah, I
or a
know I'm not gonna
Ferris
go
wheel
on
at all.
that, but
But um,
all right, let's talk
okay.
about our sweet baby, dumb little boy, Zach.
So
Some
we're
way to pronounce his name.
Zach. I'm just gonna stick with Baggins.
Yeah, same.
I don't know, like actually don't really know where he's from that you would pronounce Bagans
He
as
feels like
Bagans.
somebody who was born in Las Vegas to me. I know he
I
lives
mean,
there, but like he feels
you
like
really
born and raised.
he does. He even just like literally when you see him, he exudes like Las Vegas
He
vibes.
looks like the fucking the what's his name? Mystery. Was that his name? The fucking pickup artist? Like they dress exactly the same.
Oh, I don't know.
No, he was born in Washington D.C. and raised in Illinois.
Okay, I could see born in Washington, D.C. All right, we're from the same DMV, Zach, and yet you leave me on red.
Yeah, he's a fucking jerk.
I know I've I've never continued to support somebody so strongly that has broken my heart like this. All right. So the episode that we're doing is called Skinwalker Invasion. And if you are, depending on where you're searching, it's not listed as its own special. So it is season 28, episode 1. And contrary to what Zach says, it is not a 2-hour special. However, most of the episodes are 40 minutes. This one is over an hour, so sure, it's a special.
I'm gonna, I'm gonna send you some pictures of fucking this dude that in like the late '90s had a TV show on MTV about how they called the pickup artist who goes
Like
by
magic or
no, like how to pick up
oh,
women.
oh, oh, geez.
Uh,
I'm like magic?
he went by the name Mystery, and I can't remember if there was like I feel like there was a weird spelling in there, but
Hmm,
like he looks like him and Zach Baggins would be best friends.
he
This
might be.
fucking dude's hat. What a king.
Oh! Oh my goodness. What in the godzooks? Oh, and his like huge spirally plugs. Is he wearing binoculars around his neck?
Yeah, I think so.
Tiny pair of binoculars.
What a
That
king.
is amazing.
We stand. A wildly problematic dude.
Yeah, I don't like that. How is. Yeah, okay. Well, I think Zach could get down on that fuzzy black hat, though.
Oh, 100%. I've seen him wear essentially the same kind of thing.
Fair.
I'm just gonna
Okay.
fall down a fucking rabbit hole of this dude's life. See, I, I feel like there's got to be a controversies thing on his like Wikipedia or something.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, he has been criticized for promoting unethical and manipulative behavior.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. Who would have
Huh.
guessed from the pickup artist?
I.
All right. Anyway, we're gonna
So,
barely talk about skinwalkers.
that's okay. Um, I don't know why. I had seen this. This is season 28, so this came out in 2004. So this is like recent. But for some reason, when you were having me pick between the hotel, which I don't even think I finished that hotel one, which is why I didn't pick it. Also,
Which one? Goldfield or?
yeah,
Well,
Goldfield.
yeah, I figure because like we only have at least per like letterboxed like that and the original special are the only ones we haven't done. And so I just figured if we did that, and then we could do those as like a single episode because it's like the return to Goldfield Hotel or whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
and then we could like do fucking Demon House.
yeah. Um, I like how IMDb is just like self. So it's like Zach, Jay, Billy, self, Aaron, self, investigator. He's like, listen, guys, I am myself, but I really want you guys to just drive home that I'm an investigator, okay? Um, what was I saying? Oh, when you were having me pick, I picked Skinwalkers because if you remember the Like of Death episode that we did, they were literally obsessed with Skinwalkers and things involving thereof. Um,
Spoiler: they
and
do not find a Skinwalker in this episode.
if you can believe it. I also like they go into if you don't know what a skinwalker is, like you can watch this episode. They go into like kind of detail about what it is. And if you listened to our like scariest creatures in America or whatever the fuck that show was, I was talking about how I don't know why, but I'm like actually nervous about them. And there's a bunch of because like growing up near like the Appalachians, like that's like a big thing, right? And all of those things that you're not supposed to do, like around the woods, normally like center around them. And also one of the things that you're not supposed to do is talk about them because it like draws their energy to you or whatever. They do not stop saying the word. They don't stop saying it. And even during the investigation, one of the guys is like, "Oh, also you're not supposed to talk about them." They never stop, and it makes me so nervous. Like
like
I'm irrationally nervous.
the dude
about
that's
it.
like, "Hey, bro, I wouldn't be playing that flute out here."
And he goes, "Why not?" Like it's so, the flute thing fucking set me the first time that I watched it.
I will say, this shit sucks. The show is the worst. But that and then fucking Aaron just eating crackers in the middle of a fucking like investigation and like Zach getting pissed off about it was very funny.
I love it so much. And so okay, so that's why I picked this one. I inaccurately, as I do frequently, was thinking this was a different episode that they do allude to or they talk about where they go to Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah.
That they call Skinwalker Canyon, and Skinwalker Ranch is like a big thing in like paranormal circles where like not only do they think that these creatures are there, there's been like countless UFO activity, cattle mutilations, etc., etc. But that episode was back in like 2017, so it's like an older one.
It really feels like at this point they're just going back to the same places they've already been.
Yeah, and like this is technically a different
Place.
place, but not that far because they're both in Utah. So like, but aside from the notoriety of the other, because like I don't think anybody's. So this episode takes place in Torrey, Utah, at like a little town that like there's like 5 buildings there or whatever. And there's like not notoriety behind it, and there is for the other place, but they essentially are the same claims and things or whatever. There is like a piece of footage that I distinctly remember from that original episode that I remember being creeped out by, but they don't ever talk about or say it or whatever, so I just was like, whatever. So this is an episode from this year. It was the premiere of season 28. 28 seasons, if you can believe it. And like I said, we're in Torrey, Utah. Utah is gorgeous. If you people have never been there, it is like literally stunning. So we do get a lot of really nice views in this episode, at least of like the mountains, or not mountains. Well, they are mountains, but they're like, you know, rocks. I know that they're like, but what I'm trying to say is like you can see all the layers in the sides of the canyon and stuff. It's beautiful. And essentially, like, I'm just gonna start by saying that this is obviously another, because they're out in the deserts of Utah, there is a lot of stuff surrounding like people who are native to the land. And I will say in this episode, at least, I don't really feel like there's anything disrespectful happening because they actually bring in like traditional practitioners. So this one's okay to watch, but like anytime they start talking about like native land and whatever, I'm like, ugh, it like makes me nervous. It's fine. They tell us at the beginning of the episode that a place they're going to focus on is called the Chuckwagon Inn because there was quote unquote desecration of native lands. It is a wildfire out of control with paranormal activity. Okay. Then he tells us that the owner of the Chuckwagon Inn, he's concerned. He's scared because he believes that there is an invasion of skinwalkers.
Yep.
Goodness. Then he tells us, the thing that I said in the beginning about how they're going to just take this one day, one step at a time, because they just don't know what's going to happen. There's hundreds of acres on the ranch, and it's going to be 2 hours special.
What could possibly happen that, they haven't experienced in fucking 28 seasons?
Spoiler alert, nothing.
Yeah.
So then they just kind of describe to us what skinwalkers are. From here on, I'm just going to call them walkers. I'm not going to keep saying it because
they'll come to your house.
I'm not bringing that on myself, okay? I know better.
I assume they're all over Florida.
I hope not.
Luckily, they got dropped off in the hurricane.
Yeah, pretty much. Luckily, there's not really a lot of woods around where I live, so I think I'm okay. They basically just tell us that people who used to do rituals on the land could summon these violent shape-shifting creatures to do their evil bidding and kill their enemies, etc., etc. And before we start, Zach has to explain a disturbing incident that had occurred before they started filming.
Always before they started filming.
Yes, which is, it's broad daylight at this point, by the way. Zach tells us he takes 10 minutes to explain the situation, which leads me to believe they had an hour, not even, of evidence because of the amount of tomfoolery that happens in this episode. So the incident is that he asked somebody who works on the ranch if there was a cool place that he could record his intros at, because
Can you imagine being asked that?
No, especially if you are honestly fearing for your life and you bring this a group of people in because you somehow think that you know who Zach Baggins is and thinks he's gonna help, and he shows up and he's just is there a cool spot where I could do my intro? Sir. And so while they were doing that, Zach all of a sudden got a flash of a Native American man, and then his whole body went numb and he got chills. And then they tell us that one of the crew members, whose name is Bacon, was attacked by a quote-unquote tornado of flies.
This show needs to be taken off the air immediately.
That came from nowhere, zip-zopped around him, and disappeared. So they're wanting us to believe that this vision of a Native American man that Zach saw turned into black flies, swarmed Bacon, and then disappeared. Oh, so disturbing.
I mean, his name is Bacon. What are the flies supposed to do?
I mean, fair though. So then they're basically just there's a lot of setting the tone. They're driving through the little town, talking about how all of the shops are boarding up as they pass because it's afternoon and there's 5 people in the town, so they're just closing whatever. But before they go into the Chuck Wagon Inn, they see a gift shop, and Aaron just must go in because as we all know, he loves gift shops.
Yeah, who doesn't?
Seriously, as one does. And they go in there. Aaron is having the time of his life. He he holds up this onesie that says it's like a moose Star Wars thing. I don't even know what it says, but he's basically look, hee hee. And Zach's do you have kids? And he was no, but it's funny. He just is literally having the time of his life. Zach is picks up and plays a flute, and the first time that he plays it, they're showing him playing it with this real, actually good flute playing over top of it. He goes, okay, I remember when I first watched this, seeing him play the flute, and I was oh my god, he can play the flute. And he goes, it still frames, he goes, at least that's what it sounded like to me. And then it cuts to him playing the flute again, and it's just like, you know, like how
He's
somebody who can't
so
play the flute
fucking
plays the
weird.
flute. I'm sorry, I laughed so hard. It got me.
It's
I
so
laughed a
dumb.
few times in this episode because it's just so stupid. And Zach goes to ask the Diane, the gift shop woman, to rate his performance, and she says, I don't know, a 4 out of 10. And despite this, he still ends up buying the flute, which he should because he put his mouth on it.
Yeah, for real.
But this is what I'm saying. If you go into a gift shop, absolutely do not put your mouth on anything because either
That's fine.
yeah, Zach Baggins could have had his mouth on that, okay? Whatever.
What a dream.
He also makes a comment about it being $225, which I'm not sure.
I mean, gift shops are expensive. I believe it.
Sure. So he buys the flute. They go outside. They're approaching the building where they're going to interview the son of the owner, whose name is Devin. And we refer to Devin, talk to him and his skinny red pants a lot. And Zach walks up playing the flute, and Devin's essentially like, hey, dude, fucking please stop doing that. He's just like, and Zach's like, why? And Devin basically says, like, you shouldn't be playing flutes because, like, one of the things is that you're not supposed to, like, whistle at night. Everyone's heard that, like, don't whistle at night. The flute is, like, calling the entities. They respond to it. And he's just like, oh. I'm like, well, they might not respond to Zach's flute playing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they ran away.
So, yeah, literally, actually. That's why they didn't see any, because they were like, oh, get the fuck out of here, Zach's here. This is when Devin tells us that he didn't believe in the paranormal until he visited the Skinwalker Ranch, which is what I was talking about earlier. And Zach's like, oh yeah, very familiar with that. And then he basically tells a story about how he's like, well, I didn't believe in any of it. So then I went there and I was kind of like mocking them and being goofy. Zach has the audacity to criticize this boy for being disrespectful to entities. Zachary Alexander Bagans, the most disrespectful, like he's just like, what did you do? What did you do? Why, you're not supposed to do that. What did you do? And I was like, leave this boy alone, okay? He is having trauma. So he basically says that, like, after he visited the ranch, he came back to the town, and that's when he started experiencing things. So the main thing that everybody experiences is 3 black figures that they see outside at night that are 7 to 9 foot tall.
Yeah.
No thanks.
It's about as tall as I am.
I literally, when I wrote that down, was like thinking a joke about, so it's Nathan essentially. And he basically was like, tells a story about how he went out to like take out the trash or something, and he like saw them underneath the streetlight, and he got freaked out and turned towards the house. And then all of a sudden they were like at the other end of the street, like in the instant. And I was like, that would be really scary to me also. Then they start telling us about this man who was like staying there, and he was like in his recliner, and he saw one of the black figures like above him. And this is when it gets really crazy, because then they go on to tell us that this man was actually a convict that broke out of prison and was just like staying at the, like, with them. And when they found that out, they called the police on him and had him arrested and taken back to jail. And I was like, did you need to tell us that part? Like,
yes, this is vital information.
Like, oh my God. So they called the cops and had this, and I was like, and now you're putting that and this guy's face on TV. That seems like a bad idea to me, but it's fine.
Yeah, he told the story. He was apparently fine with it.
I guess so. Then Devin tells us that so both Devin and his dad are seeing the same creatures outside, and they're both being plagued by these like really horrific nightmares. Devin tells us that he has dreams where he sees himself as another person killing himself, which is insane. Then they interview this other woman who says something about like I don't understand what she's saying, but eventually I think she's the one that's saying she found the like situation at the cave that we're going to talk about in a minute. They just like didn't really explain what she was talking about, and I was confused at this point. This was when we actually talked to the owner of the ranch in his house, and Zach is flabbergasted that this man is married to someone else that he's also met on the ranch. And he was like, "Oh, this is like the Twilight Zone." And I was like, "It's basically a family-run town. What do you mean?" He was like, so just like really shook about it. And he says that the woman was the one who was like showing him the cool spots to do his intro. And she's also saying that she sensed the entity that Zach sensed earlier when the fly tornado happened. So
It's very convenient that did
yeah,
not happen on camera.
yeah, right. I do also love
Like
that like
if all of this shit is constantly happening to you, like wear a body cam.
right. Right. Yeah, like why do you have times when you're like going to a location where you're not filming? Because we've seen a lot. You've seen a pretty good amount of Ghost Adventures at this time, and like how many times are they like in the car driving around, but you're just not gonna have cameras on at this point? That seems dumb. And this is the scene where the owner is like telling Zach about like, yeah, you know, like he said, you're not supposed to whistle at night. You're also not supposed to leave your blinds open at night because the creatures can like look into the window and like they can't get in your house, but they can get into you. And this is at the moment where Zach realizes that he's sitting next to the window and it's nighttime, but the blinds are open, and he's like, oh. And I was like, oh. Okay, so the owner, I did not catch his name. So the owner says that he also has
Brevin.
Okay, Brevin. This is my son, Devin. My name's Brevin.
Yep.
Thank you. They have game camera footage of what they think is a runner out there. So they show us the footage, and it's like really hard to tell what's going on because it is a game camera, which if you don't know, it's just like cameras that they put out on the property to see game, aka deer. They also have coyote in this area, you know, whatever else, horses. And we see this like, and it's, you know, so it's like a shitty surveillance camera. So it's not in color either. It's night footage. So we see this like little pixelated black blob kind of like running back and forth, and they're losing their minds over this, right? And so after interviewing everybody, Zach says, I didn't know the magnitude of how severe this is. That sentence doesn't mean anything. That's like not correct at all. He just like uses words incorrectly.
It makes sense.
Okay, so now we're introduced to Sean Klin, who is a Navajo traditional practitioner, and he is going to come with them to this quote-unquote ritual site that this woman said she stumbled upon earlier. And so for some reason, they're showing us them being in the car driving to this cave where Zach also says that there's been cattle mutilations increasing, which is not great.
Yeah, seems like something that should be looked into besides by Zach
professionals. Yeah, because they don't ever like address the cattle mutilations. They're just like, well, it's happening and we're in the air. Like he only mentions it to say that it's like spooky because they're heading towards where this is happening. Okay, so they get to the cave. They're kind of like talking to Sean Clan about stuff. Sean Clan? I wrote his name different.
When they first said his name, I was fully waiting to be like, what weirdo white dude is about to come out with this name?
Yeah. Yeah. I wrote Sean Clan and then also Sean Clan, so I apologize. He seems like a normal dude.
Yeah.
I don't know how normal you can be to be on the show other than to be like really trying to make these guys be appropriate in your area. You know what I mean? So like I don't knock him, or I think the other guy's name is Kevin though. The other
Yeah, something like
practitioner.
that.
But anyways, he basically is like talking to them about how they need to be respectful, which they need it, right? He's like, I've seen this show, these guys. So he does like a warrior song to help protect them. He anoints them with ashes. And then they go to the cave because Zach is like really concerned about being protected from evil spirits. So he's like, all right, homie,
Finally,
here.
28 seasons in.
I mean, actually, though, so they go to the ritual site, and
I'm just imagining like this show if Zach 100% believed he was like protected for real, and just
oh,
how
yeah,
unhinged it would get.
yeah, because like to be very honest, like you said, we're 28 seasons in, and he takes it a little like, okay, take this with a grain of salt, right? But he takes it more seriously now. In earlier seasons, they were just like insane, like kind of like Shane. It's me, your boy.
Hmm.
Fuck you, goat man, stuff like that. Like they would just like do anything to kind of like rile up the spirits and be just like totally disrespectful to like the land and anything that happened there. And like now like if they're not actually being respectful, they're pretending to be. You know what I mean? Like they're not, whatever. So he does the anoints them, whatever. They go to the cave where they find the remnants of a fire, and they're digging in there, and they dig up like all of these rosaries in the fire, which is really freaky to me. They also find animal hair, and Sean Clem basically tells them that there's like two reasons that this could be here. Either somebody is doing it as a protection for their family, like they're doing some kind of ritual and they have the rosaries to be like, we want to protect our family from whatever thing is evil is happening, or it's an offering where they're being like, here you go, now go attack this other family. They're like giving them like trinkets in exchange for their services. Zach is really freaked out by this, but they decide that they're going to crawl into the cave, and Zach asks Sean Clem to call. He's like, is there anything that you could do or say to kind of like see if there's anything in here? Like I would a demon. Chill out, sir. Please chill. And so Sean Clem starts saying things in like his native language. And at the same time, Zach is like asking questions of the spirits. He says, is James and Devin marked? Do you speak English? Do you understand English? It's like, fucking chill out. They have an EMF reader, of course, which is going crazy, which I do think is a little strange, right? Because they're literally in the middle of nowhere. And as I was Googling, actually, I had a thought, like, do cameras emit enough EMF frequency to, like, make an EMF reader go off? And as I'm, like, trying to Google this, Zach literally tells us that the answer is no. And I was
Well,
like,
of
oh,
course he's
that
gonna
was
say that.
right. But he was like, here, I'm, like, putting this camera by the EMF reader and it's not going off. They show it on camera. And I was like, okay, that is kind of weird. Weird coincidence. But whatever. It's going off. That's strange, right? Zach then gets shortness of breath. One of them is yelling, let us see you. It's like really chaotic because at one minute, one person's like, okay, we need to stop because I'm feeling whatever. And then another person's yelling things. Like they just are always yelling. They need to chill out. Because then they hear a growling from the cave, which we don't hear at all, like on any device. But they tell us. And then they also see a light anomaly, which is definitely just like a moth or something, right?
Yeah,
And then they
it's
feel
always like a fucking moth.
literally almost always you can like very plainly tell. Sometimes it is wispy looking, which I'm like, okay, well, I don't really know actually what that is, but normally it's just a bug, right? And then they tell us that they feel coming from the cave what they describe as a deep breeze that Zach says is an energy field.
So, I love how like it's constantly like, especially with Aaron. It's like I can't remember if he's the one that does this in this scene, but he does it later on. Where like Zach will be like, "Oh my god, did you feel that breeze?" Like, "Oh my god, bro, I was just about to say it. I felt that breeze? I didn't really want to say
Yeah.
anything out loud, but then now you said it." I'm like, "Come on, dude,
Yeah. He does do that a
act
lot.
better."
Yeah. Um, so they are suddenly back at, this isn't a ranch. I keep calling it a ranch, whatever. They're back at the town. Zach says that he and Billy are terrified. So they're going to do drone. They have a drone that they're going to put a thermal camera on and then survey the area. For whatever reason, I'm gonna say nothing comes of this drone footage. They do show us like a heat signature, which is definitely just horses. And then they're like, oh, there's this heat signature in front of the house. It's probably a person. It's in front of this guy's house. He's not a part of the investigation, but he's on the premises. So
Why is he walking around and just eating slices of cheese?
So I'm just gonna say they reference and show us so much of this drone footage because, of course, at one point the drone cuts out and stops working, and they're spooked by that. Nothing comes of this fucking drone footage, so who cares? Aaron tells us that they're gonna do an experiment, which is that they're gonna put meat on the ground and point cameras at it. Cool.
It works out well.
Our best friend Jeff is there. If you'll recall, he's the one that wouldn't stop breaking into that prison on that prison episode. They kept finding him in that cell or whatever.
Yeah.
So nothing is happening with the meat on the floor. So they decide that they're going to play distressed coyote sounds.
I feel like you're gonna
okay.
go just attract something real that's going to
so
come after you.
So they are playing these noises. The cats did not like the noises, by the way, I will say. And Aaron and whoever is with him hear footsteps, so they go to investigate, and they're like, Jeff, stay here. And Jeff's like, I'm not going anywhere. Yeah, because you're playing coyote noises. You've got meat on the ground. There's probably fucking coyotes there.
Literally any sort of like nighttime creature that's not a skinwalker.
You guys are literally in the middle of the desert. Like, come on. And then there's like this whole thing where they're seeing blinking lights in the distance. Okay. I don't know. There's like no explanation. There's no explanation from them as to what they think it is. Then later, like at the same time in a different area, Zach sees it too. And they're like, we got to go over there. This clearly looks like somebody just walking with a flashlight on the street. Like, there's no question in my mind that this is paranormal. And the fact that they don't say anything else about it or, like, offer an explanation to me means that they just were like, oh, it's just a guy. But, whatever. Then, remember this. There's a gust of... There's no wind happening, but there's leaves flying around. And Aaron says, there's no wind. Why are all these leaves moving? And he's really freaked out by this. There is a quote-unquote anomaly on the UV camera. It looked like a groundhog to me, or like a squirrel on the ground or whatever, but they're also freaked out by it.
The thing that drives me crazy about this is, like, they're constantly, at least the episodes I've seen, in the dustiest buildings, or like outside in a desert where you're kicking up sand and all kinds of shit, and like, yeah, you're gonna pick up weird things on your camera just like floating into the atmosphere.
Right. And like, don't get me wrong, if I was like in the darkness of a basement and anything that happens to me, I would definitely be really spooked. Like, I would be scared. I'm not even gonna front on that. But like, I'm also not gonna be like, this light anomaly. Like, it was a bug.
Yeah.
It was a cobweb. You know what I mean?
It's
like
it's
afterwards,
always like a
whatever.
bug or like just whatever
An animal
shit kicked up like from you walking around a place that hasn't had anybody walking around in it in months.
Yeah. So, more lights. This is the one that literally just looks like a guy walking around with a flashlight. So Aaron and Jay are now investigating a building where they keep feeling like they're being touched. There's anomalies everywhere. They decide that they're going to start using the obelisks. Two So what they get is they're like, well, what happened here or whatever, and the obelisk says kill, area, aggression. All right,
Makes
fine.
sense.
They ask another question. This is the thing that drives me crazy though, is that like when they get evidence that doesn't mean anything and they just like try really hard to wrap it around to something else, because then we get head, kill again, and cow. And Zach promises us that this is going to make sense later. It doesn't. Like, I don't even remember the thing that they try and like loop it back to. It just doesn't. Oh, I do now. Okay, I remember now. Still stupid. Then they get wind, prop, and devil. And Aaron's like, oh my God, do you remember earlier when those leaves were moving around, but there wasn't any wind? The devil was using the leaves as a prop.
Yep. Oh, that's the
Great.
only explanation.
I mean, you nailed it, buddy. Okay, so now they go to the Chuckwagon Inn. They're really worried to go in there because of what they've experienced tonight. If the things that are attached to them will get mad because they're going inside this building. Okay. Okay, this is really strange. They're basically the crew comes to get Zach because they're like, oh my God, this thing happened to this worker, Barbara. Something just happened to her. So they go and Zach's like, Barbara, did something happen in here? And she's like, yeah, about 20 minutes ago. and then she just like doesn't say anything. He's like,
Can't believe you guys did put cameras in here.
So Zach's like, okay, what happened? And she basically describes that she went to the bathroom, she sat down on the toilet, everything was still, and then the trash can lid started flapping, and then it stopped immediately.
Then a weird little green guy jumped out, started talking to me. Very rude.
So that would be freaky, right? You're just trying to take a dump or something, and somebody's smacking on the trash can, banging on a street light, if you will.
Maybe
And
it was
so that
the people from Stomp going
it
by.
could have been. Actually, they loved it. And so Zach's like, okay, that's weird, right? But then she goes on to say they're in the general store part right now, and she basically is talking about how there's a large man, and she says it has to be a man because the shoulders are so wide. Okay. Who just walks around, paces around the general store. Don't like that. Then she
That's fine.
says they're like just like in the middle of a normal conversation with this woman, and she says, I have had another soul inside my body before at the same time. And Zach's like, what? And she's like, all right, here you go. Here's all my crystals. Gives a handful of crystals to somebody on the team, and it's just like, they're gone now. And then like that's the end of it.
Yep.
And I was like, Barbara, I desperately need to know more. What is going on with you? Zach, the fact that Zach thinks her behavior is weird to me just really riled me up about it.
This is the type of show that I wish had like a Walking Dead style after show that just talked to the fucking people that had to interact with the Ghost Adventures crew.
Because they do have like, I don't know if they did this during COVID or before, like in lieu of filming, but they have a show called Ghost Adventures Screening Room where the crew, like the guys sit and rewatch episodes and then like recount stories from it. That's where Zach reveals to us that he's got a foot fetish, which is not really sure what had to do with any of that. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. That tracks. But yeah, I wish that they did like post interviews or like anything with the people rather than, because like essentially like the format of the show for the most part is that they get to the area, they do the interviews, and then we don't see the people again afterwards. They just like end the episode. So it's like, what, I need more info on like what they show to the people, if the people are, because like we said in another episode too, the show is essentially just like the Ghost Adventure guys going to investigate for the sake of investigating, but they do pose it as like these guys need help, we need to help them, we need to get answers, but then like they don't actually help at all because if they're like, "Oh yeah, this place was crazy. See ya." Like how is that helping
Yeah,
the people who
it's
are
they're fine.
I guess so. Um they do also have a show that's like Where Are They Now, where they like go back and talk to people who maybe I'll watch that one. Okay. So Barbara hands over all her crystals and pieces out. She's done. Uh they all feel a wind and the EMF spikes again. Zach is yelling at everybody if they were filming the EMF spiking, which is weird. He's like, "Lauren, did you get it going to zero?" And she's like, "Zach, yes. My only job is to film you. I've got it." Like, don't talk to Lauren like that. She has to put up with enough, okay? She was the one that was like bushwhacking in that one episode where they bushwhacked to nowhere for hours. Like, I really hope she's getting paid because wow. Um, okay. Then they're standing at this crawl space that they have decided, of course, as they do, that it is a portal. Zach tells Aaron to go into the crawl space. Aaron, of course, does not want to, and Zach says Aaron knows he must do as I say. Why?
Because he pays him.
I guess, but I want to know how much the staff makes. If Zach is worth like 30,000, 30 million, whatever the fuck that said, like I need to know. Oh, his net worth is estimated at 30 million. I need to know like what the staff gets because I'm interested.
Probably like minimum wage.
Yeah, 750.
Yeah,
Aaron, get
but
in
they
that
get
crawl
they get
space.
tips, so
Okay, true. They get to eat crackers, so he provides. Let's see. They think it's a portal, right? Then the owner's son Devin also just randomly tells us that they see a little girl ghost standing underneath the stairs by the portal. Sure. Um, then they have these like two girls that they're just randomly interviewing where they take upstairs there's like an apartment above the general store where one of them basically says that one night all three of them were hanging out in this bedroom for some reason. The reason the apartment is weird to me is because it doesn't look like anybody lives in the apartment. So I'm like, why were you just like hanging out in this apartment in the bedroom of all places? Well, I don't know. But basically, one of them says that they saw something go into a mirror. Then one of the girls got a nosebleed and the other one blacked out. And I was like, I don't know. I think something else was happening here. That was not paranormal.
I don't know.
But that's just
Could have
me.
been ghost cocaine.
Could have been. Then they bring this poor worker named Jose. They call him to the ranch, and Jose is terrified. He said there's bad vibes. He's seeing things. He's scared. He doesn't want to go in there. And then Zach, of course, I thought this scene, not for Jose, because he actually seems to be like actually terrified. But I thought the scene was really funny because he's like, okay, will you go upstairs with me? Like, let's just go together. And Jose is finally like, okay, let's go. And Zach says, I am not forcing Jose to stay up. Like, he's like really reiterating to us that he is not forcing anybody to go into these situations. And I was just like, I don't know. You've got them in front of a camera and you're asking them to do something. I feel like you're kind of using your position to like highly suggest that they do stuff on camera, so I don't know. But anyways, Jose goes up there. He gets really scared to the point where he can't even walk. He's just like standing there, scared. Zach says that whatever is there is manipulating his emotions. Zach tries to get him to go down into a basement for some reason, but Jose stops on the stairs and will not go down because he says that he saw something that was black, open the door and go into the basement. No, thank you. Jose immediately leaves. Good for him. Like, literally gets in his car and fucking peels out. He's gone. And,
Just be me in like every one of these episodes. I'm like, no, I'm out of here.
yeah, seriously, peace. Zach says that after this encounter, the guys all freak out because Jose said that he saw a black figure, and they're like, "Oh man, I didn't even ask him, but he said that's what he saw." And I'm like, "Sure, like I get that you're trying to like corroborate your evidence of like the entities that they saw being like really tall and black or whatever, but it's nighttime, so like anything you see in the dark pretty much is gonna be black, but it's fine." Zach says, "Whatever's here doesn't want to cross over. It just wants to get darker." How do you know that?
He knows. He understands spirits. If anybody
Um,
does, it's our boy.
that's right.
Zachy, last name.
Zachy last name. He also Zachary Alexander. He also hasn't he hasn't spoken to anybody. Like this is one of the few episodes where they really only use the spirit box like one
Yeah,
time.
they don't really do a whole lot of like.
No, and so I'm wondering if that just means that they didn't really get anything, so there's like nothing to show, you know? But like so far it's just been them walking around normal, getting spooked at
Yeah.
stuff. So, okay, now we're at day two. During the day, the crew's going to check out some petroglyphs, which are drawings on the side of a wall. And I wrote Kevin. I don't know if that was his name. Sorry, sir. But basically, he's saying that he is like there. He's like showing them. He's like kind of explaining what some of the drawings, and these are like what you would expect, like cattle, men with, bow and arrows, whatever. And he's basically like explaining what some of the glyphs might mean. And it's just like another one of those things with the ritual thing, though, where he's like, I don't know, this could be hunting. This could also be being murdered by an entity. So it's like everything is up to interpretation, and it could be totally fine and normal, and it could be fucking weird. We just don't know. And because he's saying that like some of the drawings might not have been drawn by people.
Uh-oh.
And Zach's like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "I don't know, spirit, entities." And I'm like, okay, all right. Um, it is during this time that Jay gets so overwhelmed and lightheaded that he has to sit down. Zach goes over and asks if it is medical or spiritual that he's feeling sick. And he says that when he was in the attic, he made eye contact with something, which, like, I don't think we ever even saw this scene where he thought he saw something, first of all. He said he made eye contact with something in the attic, and now he doesn't feel good, and he hasn't felt good.
Yeah, don't go in the attic.
Then, yeah, you should just never go in an attic, if we're honest. I just wrote, I don't know what he's talking about, so that describes
That's
that.
me every episode of this show.
Yeah. Kevin then does like a cleansing ritual on them. Um, I wrote Zach has insane hat hair. The boys all take their hats off out of respect and to get cleansed by Kevin, and Zach's hair looks insane. Okay. So now it's nighttime again. They're going to start their investigation. We're almost done. Jay stays at Nerve Center, aka sits and watches the computer monitors. And the guys, oh my God, the guys have quite the freak out because Zach, they're just really shook because instead of Zach making Aaron go by himself up to this apartment, Zach is going to go by himself.
Finally.
Hallelujah. Oh my goodness. I can't believe it. Aaron just really has the time of his life in this episode. So Zach's gonna go up into the apartment by himself. He is walking around with a boom, being like, "Is anybody here?" And catches a hanger moving by itself in the closet. Sure, that's weird. Also a light anomaly, of course. And because of this, he has the guys bring up the XLS camera. One of them points the camera down a hallway, and they all freak out because they see a figure moving around a bunch. Zach assures us that it rules out the figure being a false positive because they are holding the camera steady. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Then they say that the apartment smells like decaying flesh. Okay. Aggressive.
I don't understand this entire episode even, like, why call it Skinwalker Invasion?
Because in the beginning, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know because they don't catch any footage, whatever. It's just also because he's in the beginning, he's like, it's an invasion. The owner and the son report having seen three. I don't really know if that's an invasion, but sure.
I guess if there were zero right before.
Sure, that's fair. Three is a lot more than zero. That's to be said. Yeah, okay. Smells like decaying flesh. Gross. Not great. Not sure why you know what that smells like, but then they
Zach
freak
has
out.
clearly murdered numerous people.
Oh, I'm sure. Yes, him and his best friend John Mayer. So Zach and Aaron and Billy. So yeah, so Zach was up in the apartment by himself. He freaks out, doesn't freak out. He like has them bring up the camera. So Billy and Aaron are just like up there, and they start freaking out because they notice that there's a feather on the couch. And Billy says, that wasn't there a few days ago. What? How long have you fucking been here in this apartment?
Like 3 months.
Yeah, right. And they're basically freaking out because they're like, Zach didn't see it. It wasn't here earlier when we were setting up the cameras. I've never seen this feather before. And then they start making a connection between this feather and a bunch of footage that we never saw. Like they're talking about how the Kevin, the who was interpreting the petroglyphs or whatever, said that there was one that looked like a weird deformed bird or whatever. And then they're talking about how there was like a bird flying around watching them or something. And it's like bizarre to me because they're like, oh, remember when this thing happened? But then they do this a lot where they'll like make references to interviews and stuff that they don't actually show us. So I'm like, what are you guys talking about? This means nothing to me. They're freaking the fuck out. And they're like, Zach, get in here, like screaming for Zach to come look at this feather. They have the XLS camera up still, and there's a figure on the ceiling, which, of course they're trying to say is a bird flapping around up there watching them or whatever. They're absolutely losing their minds. Zach finally comes up and they're like, there's this feather here. And they're like screaming and shit. And Zach just like doesn't care. He's like, oh, I tire. But they're trying to make it seem like he's like in a trance or something, like whatever. Okay. So now they finally use the spirit box and they get to what I would describe as intelligent responses, which is a woman telling them to turn off the spirit box, and then Zach is like, doesn't anyone want to speak to us? And she goes, no.
Yeah, fair.
Period.
That's what I would have done.
Leave them alone. I'm gonna come through on the spirit box, and if they're gonna be like, is anybody here with us? I'm gonna be like, what up? And they're going to be like, oh my God, do you have anything you want to say? And I'm going to say, no. Period. That's it. Yep. The end. Not interested. Then it just like cuts to them interviewing Zach, like saying, and Zach is just like randomly talking about how he's worried about Jay having an attachment because, he got lightheaded and had to sit down earlier. And then now he's just kind of like sitting in front of the computers and he's not saying anything and he's like being really weird. And I was like, all right. Jay also says to us that about his experience earlier where he got lightheaded and had to sit down, that's never happened to him before. And I'm like, my guy, we watched the show.
Like,
this happens to you all the time.
I refuse to believe that in 28 seasons that has not happened once.
It happens all the time.
Yeah,
so
I was gonna
whatever.
say probably every other episode.
It's happened on an episode. You and I have done like what, 5 of them? Yeah. It's happened before. And sorry, Tiffany texted me. Okay. Yeah, so whatever. And so I really loved though when Billy was like having his like moment and Zach was like, is it medical or is it spiritual? Fair. And so Zach is like, I mean, are you okay though, or are you worried? And Jay is like, I'm really worried. And he's like, okay. So then he sends Jay. Zach is saying he's worried about Jay having an attachment. Jay's acting weird. Jay has having like an emergency of sorts or whatever, and he's like, you know what we should do is that we should make Jay go sit by himself in the recliner where that convict saw the entity on the ceiling. Like, leave him alone. Let him sit at the computers or like release him for the night or whatever. You're like, oh, I'm worried about him. He's having an episode. Let's go make him do something spooky.
Yeah.
Like, what?
That'll solve it.
Terrible. So he goes to just like sit in the chair. Okay. Zach and Aaron go to the grocery store. This is like the flute scene and this scene are the two that I remembered from this episode the most because it's just like just ridiculous. They go into the grocery store and Zach is essentially talking about how he feels like he's in like a post-apocalyptic movie because he's in a grocery store at night. He loves it so much. He wants to be a zombie survivor, I think. He's like, I'm in a convenience store. It's closed down for the night. We're in the middle of nowhere. Doesn't it just feel spooky? He's like loving it. And then Aaron is like, do you dare me to eat a candy bar? And Zach's like, what? I love these moments where you see Zach like authentically interacting with people, where he's like having this like monologue about how spooky and creepy it is, and then Aaron's like, hey dude, dare me to eat a candy bar? And Zach is like, what? Like, are you fucking kidding me, bro? It's great.
I imagine this is what like all of the shit you don't see.
Yeah.
Like that they don't put into episodes.
Yeah, I think so. This is why
this scene goes on for like a solid 3 minutes of him just like, bro, you dare me? You dare me to eat this candy bar?
It's so funny because I think they left it in here to try and show. So he's like, Zach is asking. So they have these like all of these meters set up. One of them is to like an EMF, something else. Who the fuck knows? They all look the same. And then one that is supposed to register like airspeed, and Zach is asking the ghost to open the portal or to use their energy to move something on the shelf, and then he does kind of slip back into his old ways because he goes, I bet you can't do that. I bet you can't move something on a shelf. And the little thing that there is like a weird gust of wind that makes the little fan on that meter thing go off, which I don't know, could have been somebody blowing into it for all I know. I've never seen them use that before, so that was weird. This is when Zach says, this is when Zach hears crunching and he turns, and Aaron has indeed opened food and is eating it, and Zach says, don't eat their snacks. The fact that he's using the word snacks to me just really sent me, because it's like such a kind of like weird, like wholesome word, as opposed to him just being like, hey, don't eat their food, like don't eat their stuff. Don't eat their snacks. Like it's their little snack. I don't know. It just made me laugh so hard because then he says, it is at this moment that I become extremely agitated that Aaron is eating their crackers as we are investigating.
Which has nothing to do with ghosts. He's just agitated with his coworkers.
Exactly. But I think they left this in because they're trying to be like, you know, how
spirits are getting him agitated.
Yeah. How Zach becomes like overwhelmed with rage suddenly, like that happens to them all the time. I think that's why they left this in, but no, it's definitely just like they're doing a fucking investigation and Aaron is stealing their crackers. And the fact that Zach says that Aaron is eating their crackers just really got me. I loved it. I loved it so much.
I like that he like Zach like chastises him and then fucking like he just wraps them back up and puts them back on the shelf.
Puts them back on the shelf. After asking Zach if he wants a bite, Zach is incensed and he's like, don't put them back, like leave some money on the counter or something. And I'm like, Zach, first of all, chill out. I'm sure that you guys have money to just pay them for the fucking crackers. But the fact that Aaron was gonna like eat some of them and then put them back is like so gross. So I'm saying you can't go anywhere. Zach is putting his mouth on flutes. Aaron's eating crackers and putting them back on the shelf. Like, just you can't take them anywhere. This is when Zach gets a text from Devin, who is the owner's son, that Kevin, who was the man that was talking to them about the petroglyphs, left, and on his way home, he hits what he thinks was a coyote, could have been a skinwalker. And they show us the text messages. And essentially, he's just saying, like, we definitely hit a coyote. I'm just putting it out there that coyotes are often associated with skinwalkers, so I don't know. The weird thing is that there's no evidence on the truck that he hit anything at all. Strange, huh?
Yeah. It's like it's all they were like, yeah, it's like he just turned to glass and disappeared. And it's like,
Yeah,
uh-huh.
sure.
No
Nothing, no
blood, no
damage.
hair, nothing.
Nothing. Glad your truck's okay though. Let's see. Then this is when they go to check on Jay because they think that he is asleep. He's not asleep. He's just like laying there with his eyes
He
open.
just needed a
Pre
fucking easy day at work.
Seriously, he's like, this is exhausting. And I
These
can see how being around them is exhausting.
these dummies are arguing about crackers and snacks. I'm gonna go take a break.
Yeah. There's what they say is a quote unquote strange anomaly that leaves Jay, as he's says to Aaron, they would like to see you. I don't like that. We'll be skipping that.
Yeah, it's
This
fine.
is when Aaron says that his glasses fog up. Sure, they make such a big thing about this whole scene because Zach gets really scared because he's using a thermal camera and he sees what he says is a black shadow around Aaron's head when Aaron says that his glasses fog up. And Billy has to like go back and forth to relay the information to each other because Zach is saying he didn't hear Aaron say that his glasses fogged up. But all I'm saying is we don't see Aaron's glasses fog up. Also could be for many different reasons. And also they show us the camera footage of the quote unquote black mass or black shadow that's surrounding Aaron. And I'm so sorry, but I don't see anything.
No, like there's also like a weird purple thing that they say goes over him, which like I see, but I'm also like it could be literally anything.
Well, and then because then he goes like, see, there's this like purple. Okay, first of all, he's saying black shadow, and then when he's showing us something that's colors, there's nothing black. He says, "Oh, here's this tentacle. The reason that you know that's not human is because it's like pink or purple or whatever." But then when you're looking at the other two guys' bodies on the thermal camera, parts of their pants are that color. So I was like, what are you talking about? I don't know. I also don't see it going anywhere near an Aaron's head. So anyways, also to say is that they're freaking out and making, you know, doing their like, oh my God, dude, oh my God, like freaking out about this. And I don't really see anything actually happening. Zach tells us that it's remarkable though, just so you know.
Yep, it's the most shocking footage they've ever caught.
Um, Zach gets really concerned because he is now, for some reason, fully convinced that Jay has an attachment, and so they very urgently need to go outside and put the drone in the air and get an air map,
Yep.
which results in nothing. Zach literally tells us, and I'm like, okay, great. Um, this is when they're basically just saying that there's beyond a reasonable doubt there is something going on the property that they can't explain. This has been the darkest and most complex case that they've ever done. The end, just like like we say, it just like hard cut ends the episode. I'm like,
Yeah, like every episode. I literally looked
yeah,
at the time and they're like, we're gonna go like get the drone out, blah blah, and there was like 50 seconds and I was like, what the
yeah,
fuck?
yeah. So it's like,
Whoever edits this show
great. Yeah.
needs to be fired.
Because here's my other thing too, is like they spend so much time on the intro, and then there's just literally no
Well,
outro
yeah, we
aside
gotta
from him
get
being
all the
like,
fucking juicy
"This is
details
scary."
about, hey, can you point me to a direction where it'll look real cool for me to film the intro?
Yeah. Where's your tornado of flies?
Yeah,
I want to go stand in it
we gotta tell you about this
on a
thing that we
ranch.
did not get footage of.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
What a bad show.
I love it so much. It is just amazing.
Uh, I also watched the Cecil Hotel that we've talked about, like we were gonna do an episode on. So I just watched it, and it is bad.
Yeah.
The fucking psychic lady they bring in should be on the show every week.
I don't specifically remember
I
her,
feel like her
but
name was Patty. Maybe they showed like a thing. They were like, she's
uh
helped us in some other thing, and like they go into a room, and she just starts like doing the like little kid like I'm gonna pee my pants pose, and she's just like, I feel like I need to cover my privates. They're like, what she doesn't know is a woman was raped in this room. And I was like, Jesus Christ. And she also like
uh
tries to like pretends like she's gonna jump out of a window because the room they're in, some fucking person jumped out of a window there. Like it's one of those things like outside of the um I'm blanking on her name.
Lisa Lamb.
Yeah. Like outside of her story, everything they talk about, I'm like, this happens at every hotel.
I
Like
know, yeah.
they're like, this hotel's full of suicides and murders, and I'm like, yeah, so is every hotel. You just don't
Yeah.
hear about it.
Yeah, and I mean like obviously the Cecil Hotel is like a historically important hotel as far as like who stayed there and like what happened to them and stuff, but it's like the notoriety. But like I don't know, I just felt like when I watched it, they did not handle any of the anything that happened or anything that they were talking about with tact at all.
It's like when he does the elevator game shit, I was losing my mind because he's like, oh my god, it's going up to room 7. I didn't even hit anything. I'm like, yeah, you're in an elevator in a hotel. Someone probably hit a fucking button.
Yeah,
Someone probably
yeah.
needs to use it. And you're in
Yep.
here screaming.
Could you imagine being the person like on the floor, like you hit the button, you just hear like, "Oh my God, dude!" I'd be like, "All right, I am taking the stairs." Yeah, not. I don't. I
It was equally like disrespectful, but also extremely funny because they're just like, there's that, and there was something else that happened in it that I was just like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
really yeah, awful.
Like,
Um,
there was like another moment, I can't remember what it was, where they do sort of the same thing where they all like freak themselves out. Where I was like, this is pretty funny, but I can't remember what it was now.
don't
It was
know.
another sort of scenario like the elevator game thing where I was just like, you guys are fucking goofballs. What are you doing?
Yeah, I
How did you somehow become a millionaire doing this?
That's all. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. There is there's a episode like a regular episode of the show that I really want to do. Since they're only 40 minutes, maybe we do like a combo episode for it. But it's actually the episode immediately after the one that we just did, where I don't even want to tell you. I don't even want to tell you.
Yeah,
I just
just
want you to
yeah.
experience it. It is incredible and disrespectful and really insane. So we'll have to do it soon. But here.
I'm definitely interested now to see what the first episode is like in comparison to like these fucking weird specials that are on like the last like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
So like whenever we have like the next time like Kit isn't available and we do this, we'll do like that original one and then the Goldfield Hotel special because I really just want to see what like the first episode is like compared to this fucking insane bullshit.
yeah, it definitely is like a different, not wholly different, but a little bit of a different show because they're not,
I just assume it has
famous
to be
and
like a way more, not like way more, but like definitely like a lot more like laid back in comparison to like the fucking insanely stupid shit they're doing now.
yeah, and I feel like they also would try and like debunk, not they didn't try and debunk stuff, but they would show more evidence where they're like, oh, we heard this banging, but it turned out to be a pipe.
Right.
This is debunked, which they almost never
Yeah, now
debunk
everything is an
anything
anomaly that
anymore.
like they
Yeah. And also like the regular episodes, since they're shorter, they're not like I don't know, like extending it as much. They're just like, oh, nothing happened, or like, oh, we got this whatever. So I don't know. Um But yeah, so that was that. This I will not.
Fucking dumb show.
Terrible.
I was looking at news, but none of this is interesting. Unsurprising. There's a Kolchak comic, if you weren't aware, that he meets the classic monsters.
Perfect.
Sounds up your alley.
Yeah,
Have you watched any of the new Matlock with Kathy Bates?
I have not.
I was just
I
curious because I get commercials for it all the time on Paramount Plus.
I can't decide if I think that I love Kathy Bates. Obviously I love Matlock, and I can't decide if it's like if it's good or not.
I feel like it's gonna be just kind of generic
Generic, yeah.
mystery show, but I like Kathy Bates. I don't know. I'm not gonna watch it. I just was. We dove back into Survivor, and there's like a fucking commercial for it every fucking break. So I was curious if
Yeah.
you'd seen it or not.
No, just the commercials.
All right. What have you watched since the last time we recorded?
I've actually watched a lot. Um, Going off of this, Zach Baggins just released a new show called Destinations of the Damned with Zach Baggins. It is um essentially kind of like it says with Zach Baggins, but he is pretty much just narrating it. He is sending his crew, so it's like the documentary crew that did Demon House. And I actually misspoke. For some reason I thought Demon House was the very first thing that he did in like 2009 or something. But then I re-looked up Demon House and it's from like 2019. So it's not that
Maybe
old.
you time traveled and watched it in 2009.
I'm telling you, I feel like it's one of those Mandela effect things and a different timeline happened because I could have sworn that came out in like 2009. But it's neither here nor there. I just wanted to correct myself. Not like anyone was messaging me like, you fucking idiot. I surprisingly am not the authority. I'm not an expert on Zach Baggins. However, so it's a new show where he sends his crew to remote locations that are destinations of the damned. And I just see that the newest episode is called Nazi Portal to Hell, so that'll be great. So I will say that this show, if you're planning on watching it, is pretty dark because they basically like the very first episode um is called Buried Alive, and it's about this volcanic eruption that happened in Armero, Colombia, maybe it's called. But this was like on the news. It was like a big thing. There was like a volcanic eruption that like flooded this town and like thousands of people died. And they're showing you like footage from the news of when it happened at the time. This was like in the 80s. So they're showing you like live footage. So it's pretty graphic. So if you're going to watch it, and especially with kids, it's not like a ghost program necessarily. It is just like, I mean, Destinations of the Damned, I feel like pretty much says it, right? And so it's very graphic, very heavy. And Zach is like not there. It's just the crew is having to go out by themselves. And then he's being like, the devil's doorway is in chat, like whatever, voiceovering it and stuff like that. So he's not really a part of it. However, I will say it's pretty heavy. I've been dying to talk about this because so we watched we've been watching like a few things to like go to sleep at night or whatever, and then we like ended the stuff and we started our new bedtime show is Prison Break.
Oh boy.
It is incredible. I have never seen this show before in my life, but you know who the two stars are?
Yeah, it's Fire and Ice dudes from Legends.
Yes. So it's Dominic Purcell and Wentworth Miller, and as you know, Wentworth Miller plays Captain Cold in Legend. What is it called? Legends
Of
Heroes
Tomorrow.
Legends of Tomorrow, who I was absolutely like in love with as a character. I loved them so much. And so I've been wanting to watch Prison Break because it's like that perfect, like shitty early 2000s, like low stakes show. Obviously, it's about breaking from prison. And so there's like prison stuff that happens. It is incredible. It is terrible and amazing. I love it so much. And so we're like watching it, and I had told Chris sort of like why I wanted to watch it, and then he was like talking about Wentworth Miller, and he was like, he's not. He was like, is he good in that other show that he's in? And I was like, yes. I was like, yes, he's so good. And he's like, does he just play the same character? And I was like, yes, he does. It is the smolder. It is incredible. If you want. Oh, it's great. So we're on season 2 now. They've officially broke from prison.
Yeah, I never understood how that show kept going after they got out of prison. Like, what's the
I
point?
I don't know because there's 5 seasons of it, but I will say this is like one of those shows that is like stressful because even though it's like kind of edgy, whatever, it is one of those shows where anything that can go wrong does go wrong constantly. Like not a single thing goes right. I think his name is Michael in the show, but I usually just call him Prison Break. Nothing goes the way Prison Break wants at all. And so as we were watching the first season, Chris was like, oh, I'm getting kind of bored of them being in prison. Are they going to break out? And I was like, well, I mean, it's called Prison Break, so I assume so. But I was under the impression that like most of it took place in prison, but they break out, right? So we're in whatever. And we're at a point now where I was like, I kind of miss when they were in prison still. So we'll see because we're only on season 2, but it is everything I hoped for. It's amazing. I love it. So that's our like bedtime show that we're watching. I also watched some other like random ghost stuff, of course. And then we watched. So I think the last time we did a recording, we had watched Split and Glass already. So after that, we we watched The Matrix Resurrections.
Is it the?
That's the newest one.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I don't think I've seen anything outside of the first one.
so we're like halfway through the movie, and Chris and I was like, I don't know who that. Like, I revealed to Chris that I also had only seen the first one, and he's like, why did you recommend watching this? I was like, I don't know. It was on our watch list because I thought you wanted to watch it. And like, to be very fair, you can watch it without having seen any of them because they like pretty much explain everything to you. But I don't know. It was really hard for me to rate it. Excuse me, rate it because like I have almost no basis for anything that's happening in it.
Like I saw the first one when it first came out and barely understood what was going on in it, let alone anything without seeing the sequels. I can't even imagine watching like a fourth one.
Yeah, it's fine. I actually, to be very honest with you, don't even know if I've seen all of the first one because I know for a fact that I've fallen asleep during it twice. It's just like it just like really wasn't for me, and
Yeah,
I wanted
I've
so
never.
badly to like it, but I just didn't. But anyways, then I watched the Salem's Lot remake that just came out. It was fine. I think some of the things that it has going for it is that it's a lot more fast. I personally, for some reason, do not care for Salem's Lot. Like I've read the book, I've seen the movies. And even though they're like a vampire thing for me, I find them so boring, and I also don't care about any of the characters. So when I saw that they did a remake, I was like, whatever, I'll watch it. It's fine. It's a lot more fast paced than the original. And I think for the most part, it looked really good. The only like real qualms I have with it is when they finally reveal like what the vampire guy looks like. He looks so incredibly stupid. Um, but other than that, I thought it was actually pretty good. Then, okay, so I discovered this channel, this free channel on our TV called Fear Zone. So I've been pretty much just leaving that on because it plays like a mix of like shitty early 2000s horror movies that I haven't seen, and then also like Paranormal Survivor and A Haunting and just like, stuff like that. So I've left it on. And so the things that I've watched on there was that I watched Pulse, the American version with Kristen Bell, which I had never seen, and I actually thought it was pretty good. I think I gave almost everything that I watched on it like a three stars. I thought it was pretty good. Then I watched Oculus, which I had actually seen before when it came out and didn't like it the first time. And this watching of it, I actually thought it was totally fine. Um,
I don't think I've seen either of those.
Oculus actually was like a Mike Flanagan movie, which I was surprised. Karen Gillan,
Yeah, I remember when it came out, like,
isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, and then like the main character guy plays Nightwing in the Titans TV show. So I was like, oh, I know people now. I thought it was totally fine. I don't really know why I super hated it the first time. Well, I do know why, but whatever. Then we watched, continuing, suddenly randomly, we've been watching a bunch of like M. Night Shyamalan movies for no reason. I don't know why. We watched The Visit. Um, Not really my thing. Then we finally watched Us.
Oh yeah, what'd you think?
It was all right.
I really like Us. I think it's like I like it more than Get Out, but I think it's mostly because it's just weird.
Yeah. I think so. My thing with it, I did give it 3.5 stars, which is, I think, a pretty good rating. I enjoyed all of the people in it.
Lupita's fucking killing it in that movie.
She is, and she's always great. Tim Heidecker, obviously, best
The
character.
fuck the police section is so funny.
I liked all the gore in it. I liked the premise of it. I think the thing that didn't work for me was the ending. Like, the ending seemed, what's the word?
I don't
Obvious.
know. I like the ending.
The ending seemed really
yeah.
obvious to me. So like, I don't know. I just didn't like the ending.
Like
So I knocked it
I
for
think
that.
by the time she gets into that like underground area, I kind of like have pieced together what it probably was.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, like I appreciate that like instead of what I really like about his like directing career so far is that all three of his movies feel like vastly different
Yeah,
as
sure.
opposed to like a lot of people get that like big hit and then like you just think it would just be like different versions of Get Out. But
Sure.
he just like he like his second movie is a real weird swing and I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I liked it. I didn't like absolutely love it, which I think I was kind of expecting to, but like, it is what it is.
Most people seem to think that's his like weakest one, but I think it's my favorite. But it's mostly just because I think it's really weird, and I think the performances in it are really good.
Yeah, everybody is really great in it, and I thought like the violence was good.
Yeah, the
Seems like
scene when they like show up at the house is so good.
it's really freaky.
Like
Um,
Winston Duke going outside to like confront them
yeah,
is pretty funny, and then like once they get in, and it's just like they're just real weirdos. I don't know. I don't know. I love that movie.
yeah. Sometimes I think that I like think about things too much because I'm like, how did all of those people get the same jumpsuit and scissors if they're
Right.
living underneath the ground? Just like stupid shit like that. I liked the scissors. But in my mind, I'm like, I don't, and I also guess like maybe I just missed it or like don't remember like how the people were there. I don't know.
It's been a long time since I've watched it because I remember I think it was the first movie Caitlin and I actually went out to see when like we first started dating.
Hmm.
And I remember like I think after I bought the Blu-ray, like watching some of those like things you may have missed sort of like
Yeah,
YouTube
yeah,
videos. But it's been a long time because I remember being like it making the first time I was watching it, I was like, well, I don't really understand fully what was going on, but like I really liked it. And then kind of like hearing people break it down a little bit made me
yeah.
like appreciate it more.
But because I think that like my I haven't seen Get Out yet still, so we need to watch that. But I think that my experience with Nope was the same, where like the first time I watched it, I was like, this is fine. And then when we rewatched it for the podcast and I started like adding on to things that I remembered and started to like understand it a
Right.
little bit more, or, like pick up on stuff, I was like, oh, actually, this is really good. So I feel like if I watch it again, probably I'll be like, oh, okay. But just as a first viewing, you know.
Yeah.
Then I finally watched Let Me In because it was just streaming on that TV show. And I ended up not rating it because I feel like it's too difficult to rate against like the original. Um, so I'm just gonna say that it was like fine. I don't know how somehow the CG is like worse in that movie than it is in the original.
Like all of the American CGI is fucking terrible.
Weird. Um, I don't know. I had a lot of. I think there was almost no way I was gonna watch that movie and be like, yeah, it was really good. Like there just was no way, but it was totally fine. Um, let's see. Then I saw the TV Glow, which I really liked.
I need to watch that, and then that we're all going to the World's Fair.
Hmm.
But I just have like those seem like movies where I'm like I need to be in a very specific headspace for that I've just like
Yeah.
never am. Like usually when I'm like, all right, I have time to just sit and watch movies, I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna watch some dumb bullshit that I don't like fully have to pay attention to. Oh, hello, hello,
Can you hear me?
yeah.
Okay, that was weird.
I was like, what
Um,
the fuck happened?
you definitely need to be paying attention for I saw the TV Glow. I
Yeah,
wouldn't actually even necessarily know if I would specifically say it's like a horror movie, but it's really weird and I feel like people, especially if you are nostalgic kind of like we are for like old TV shows, there's a lot of like Easter eggs and references to things like that in this that I just really liked. And some of the performances were kind of weird in it. Like I like Bridget Lundy Payne, who's like the main one of the main characters. Justice Smith, I've liked in things. I don't know if it was like necessarily the script or like the direction of them, that some of the scenes were kind of like weird and like not in a way that enhanced it, if that makes sense. But like overall, I really like the theme. I like the stuff that happens in it. It's like so weird. So I liked it. Um, then I watched The Lazarus Effect.
I don't even know what that is.
It has Olivia Wilde, Donald Glover, Evan Peters, some other people in it. It's basically like this medical team are trying to figure out how to like bring people back from the dead, and there's an accident. It came out in 2015, so I was expecting it to be really shitty, but this was actually one that I saw the cover all the time and had never watched, and so it was like I said, it was just on TV, so I finally watched it, and I thought it was actually interesting. I liked it. Then I then I watched Boogeyman from 2005.
Yeah, I'm sure that sounds great.
Literally piece of trash. I don't even know. Skip it. It's whatever. It's a piece of shit. Then I watched. I think this was on Tubi, a documentary called "Famously Haunted Hollywood," which basically covers everything you would think it would, like Cecil Hotel's in there, Sharon Tate, et cetera, et cetera. But it was pretty interesting. They talked about a few things that I feel like I haven't seen people cover in stuff like this before, so I thought it was like interesting. And then last night I watched Ready or Not for the first time, which I liked a lot. I was like not really sure through most of it, but then the ending really got me. I ended up giving it 4 stars. So
I haven't seen it, but like everyone compares it to Your Next, and I'm like, I don't know. I'd rather just watch Your Next.
I haven't seen Your Next.
I don't know if it's just mostly because it's like they both have like the quote unquote like badass like final girl or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Where like Your Next starts out where it seems like it's gonna be a typical slasher, but then it's like sort of twisted where she is like hunting them down, I guess. In like this, like not really the plot, but like in more sort of like generic terms.
Mm.
And it,
I'll have to watch it and see
I
because
think you would like Your Next. It's pretty good. It's one of like the few movies in that genre or whatever in like the last. Well, I don't even know if I can say decade. Can't remember when that came out. That I don't know. I like.
let's see. You're next. 2011.
Yeah, I was close.
Oh,
All right. Let's see. I watched Devil Times 5 from 1974, and it was okay. It's like about these like 12-year-olds that break out of a fucking asylum and then like murder a bunch of people in a cabin. It's like it was fine. It wasn't like the best thing I've ever seen, but it's watchable. I then watched 2023's Frogman, which was pretty bad. TerrorVision put it out, and I just kind of like blind bought it because they had it at Walmart, and I was like, well, I like TerrorVision, and like, I don't know, I feel like getting their shit into Walmart is a big deal, so I was like, I'll support it. And I don't know,
yeah.
it's like a found footage movie about people. It's Blair Witch, but about like the Loveland Frog man.
Oh, okay.
But like, it does the thing that like the Hell House movies did that I really hated, which is like instead of filming it practically, it's like all of this like digitally manipulated shit to make it look like you're filming it on like a tape, or I
Yeah.
don't know. And like it's like, I don't know, an hour 20 maybe. Yeah, 81 minutes, and I swear nothing interesting happens until 60 minutes. It's just these unlikable people filming their trip. And so it's
I
like
hate that.
the
Yeah.
last 20 minutes are fine, but it's like everything leading up to it is a slog. I watched Vinegar Syndrome put out Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf,
Perfect.
and that movie rocks. It's like so many people's reviews are like, this is terrible, blah blah blah, but like my review is someone gets face fucked by a bat and y'all think this is bad, grow up. Like
Great.
it's insane. It's like a like full of like 80s sort of like synthy new wave music and shit. Like, I don't know, I loved it. I had not seen it in a long time, and I don't remember what my like original thoughts were for it, but I really liked it on this watch.
Wait, what was it?
Howling 2, Your
Oh,
Sister
oh,
is a
oh, oh, yeah, yeah.
Werewolf.
Sorry. For some reason, I thought you started talking about something
No,
else.
no.
Got it, got it, got it.
And then
I've never seen it, obviously, but sounds good
like
to me.
it's because the original Howling is like one of those werewolf movies where
Hmm.
the special effects are so like insane. I think everyone just is like, well, this isn't as good, but it's just like a real weird and like strange sequel. But I liked it. Um, I rewatched Earth Girls Are Easy because I'd never watched the Blu-ray I got of it that had like I had a DVD of it that had like, it's just bare bones. It was basically just the movie. But this had like a commentary track with Julie Brown, who like wrote it, and so I just kind of like dove into all that stuff. And it's obviously a banger. I rewatched Demonia. I found this like playlist on YouTube where somebody just compiled a bunch of like Italian horror and like giallo that like if I'm ever just like having option paralysis on something to watch, I've just been like watching through that.
Hmm.
So I just rewatched like Demonia and Enigma from Fulci, and I think that was it from that. I watched ACFA put out. I think it was ACFA put out Dracula the Dirty Old Man from 1969,
Ugh.
which is insane, and I loved it.
Wow.
It's like it's one of those movies where like someone after filming realized that the movie wasn't working, so they just dub like funny dialogue over. But like none of it really makes any sense, and it's just fucking weird. And it's like the entire premise, like the plot is Dracula enslaves Dr. Jekyll, turning him into a
Oh,
lycanthropic jackal man, demanding that he lure female blood donors to his LA cabin retreat.
great.
It's it
Okay.
was fucking it's so weird. But it was one of those ones where I was watching it, I was like, you know what? I love this. This is real stupid. And then I watched let's see, I watched I'll talk about the shitty one first. So I watched Vinegar Syndrome recently put out I think this was a TV movie called Bloodline from 1979 that starred like Audrey Hepburn, and it is fucking boring.
Mm.
And like it's a movie, well I think with some editing it's a movie I would like more, but it's like it's 2 hours. Like it was 157 minutes like the version on the Blu-ray, and it's just not enough happening to justify the runtime. And it just felt like somebody in America being like, I could make a kind of giallo, and just doesn't work. But like right before that, I watched 1986's Devil Story, which is one of the most insane movies I've ever seen. It is, according to the documentary on it, the only horror movie ever made in Normandy.
Oh.
And so it's this like French. I can't even say slasher. I don't know what you would call it. Like the description on Letterboxd is after their car breaks down in the French countryside, a young couple must fend off a Nazi mutant and his gypsy mother, a mummy, and the possessed horse.
Oh,
Yeah,
the possessed
yeah.
horse. Okay.
And like it, it makes no sense. Nothing in it. I can't tell you anything. Why anything was happening. It felt like a fever dream, but it kind of rocked. There's a scene where a pirate ship bursts out of a cliff for like no reason, and I was just like, I don't know what the fuck is happening, but this is the greatest movie I've ever seen.
Wow.
It's only like 70 minutes or something. I highly recommend. It's on Tubi. I watched like Vinegar Syndrome put it out, so I just watched the Blu-ray. But like, I anybody that's just into just a fuck wants to have like a fucking weird, baffling time, go watch it. It rocks. It like at some point this weird like Nazi mutant creature gets like half its head blown off, and it's just still fucking wallowing around chasing this woman. There's like a mummy for some reason that just like has a huge fucking bulge that like,
Ew.
like it's just I don't know. It's so weird, and it's like a fucking it's a perfect movie. Everyone go watch it. But other than that, we're just watching Survivor, and we got to the good seasons finally, where everyone we're in the middle of a season that's like where they do the classic thing of like bringing back like fan favorites, but they're going up against fans of the show. And so like
Oh.
everyone on it thinks they're so smart and constantly are getting blindsided by everybody. So like the last like 5 or 6 episodes we've watched of it was just like whoever's got kicked off had like no idea it was coming and shit like that. So it's been like really like actually fun to watch instead of some of the earlier seasons where you're like everyone on this sucks. Everyone's dumb. I hate this, but this one's so now we're finally hitting like the sort of good shit where everyone has like figured out how the game works and are just like using it to like
Yeah.
manipulate everyone else. I think that's it. All right. What do you want to shout out?
I am going to shout out. I have a shout out for once. The new Balancing Composure album with You in Spirit.
I don't even think I realized they released an album.
Yeah, it just came out like a couple days ago. I love Balancing Composure so much. I actually, because I'm like not really on social media anymore, didn't even realize an album was coming out until they released like the single or whatever. Because I had no idea that they were even back together.
Well, I knew they were like playing shows, like they'd reunited for some shows, but I had like no idea they'd recorded anything.
Yeah, because their last album came out in 2016, so like it's been quite the jump. But it's pretty good. I think some of the songs I'm like super into, and then some of them I'm like, well, this is a balancing composure song, you know what I mean? But like their last two albums are like two of my favorite albums ever, so I was pleasantly surprised that this came out. And then anytime that album comes out, I'm like, oh good, now I'll have something for my top five. At the end
Like,
of the
thank
year.
God, now I
Thank
got
God.
three.
Seriously. So, but it's interesting though because if you go to Spotify under their like most popular songs, all five of them are from this album. So people really have been like thirsty for them. So, yeah.
Interesting. Anti shout out all of the Halloween playlists on Spotify. Hot trash, every single one of them.
Oh, except mine is good.
No, I'm talking about the ones like Spotify has like a thing where you go to like a
Oh yeah,
specific
no, 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 no.
Halloween. It's just
No, they're
like I whoever makes these playlists, I'm sorry, but just because the song has wolf in the title does not make it a Halloween song.
yeah. They really stretch it.
It makes me so mad. All their headbanger Halloween playlist is fucking garbage. It's like all like fucking Ice Nine Kills and fucking terrible
Woof.
bullshit. Also, I found
Yeah.
out Ice Nine Kills started as a ska band, which makes so much sense to me.
Oh, okay.
Um, my actual shout out, I guess, the Blood Brothers played their first show in like a decade at some fest where they replaced Bright Eyes because they had to drop off. And I was watching a bunch
Oh,
of videos of it, and they sound so fucking good still, and I can't wait to see them in December.
perfect.
Oh, I was like kind of nervous because they're one of those bands where I'm like, I don't know, like the older you get, I don't
Yeah,
know how they would sound. They sound fucking incredible still, and I'm so stoked now to see them again.
love it.
All right, next week, Lord of Illusions, like we were supposed to do this week before I got sick.
Oh, is this a real movie or a bonus?
That is a real. Well, it's a Patreon pick for a real episode,
Okay,
and
okay,
then
okay, okay.
uh,
Because I did not. I did watch stuff for the bonus episodes, which obviously we didn't get to record, but I did not take regular notes on it, and so I just had a moment of like, oops.
yeah, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Not like there's not like a whole lot going on in that movie that like
No.
I feel like we
No.
could just discuss.
Yes.
um,
We can discuss his tiny vests.
I yeah, we'll get into it when we record that episode. But like I like that movie. I feel like I would love that movie with almost anyone else in the main
Yeah.
role. All right, if you would like to support us, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/IHappySufferPodcast. The Thursday after this comes out, we have our second episode on Are You Afraid of the Dark, which went way better than Goosebumps.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
What did we do? Laughing in the Dark? Was that what that one's called?
Yeah, we did Laughing in the Dark, Silent
On
Servant,
Phone Police.
and Phone Police.
Banger. So yeah, you could listen to us talk about that. It's another long ass episode.
Yeah.
You can leave us a rating and review on iTunes and Spotify. You can follow us on Instagram at I Hope You Suffer Podcast. You can follow Kit at Hidden Kitstery and Kitchification of Blood. You can follow Katie at Werewolf Face. Join Katie's Patreon, patreon.com/werewolf face. You can listen to my other podcast, 8K Movie Club. We recorded our first episode in 11 months.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, talked about like the last two things we went to, like screenings we went to, which was going to see The Untold Story with Erica's for Erica's like book back in like August, then going to see Frankie Frico with Steven Kostansky's Q&A.
Amazing.
You Yeah, I think after Lord of Illusions, we're doing Frankie Frico, because it should be rentable then.
I'm so
Oh,
excited.
I
I
can't
can't
wait.
wait.
I'm dying to talk about it.
Oh,
You and Kit, so. Uh, yeah. Lord of Illusions next week, picked by one of our patrons. You're gonna have a real bad time in November because I already know what got picked for that. I mean, we're all gonna have a bad time, but
was it Tiffany?
yep.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Tiffany. I thought we were friends. Why do you hate
Look,
me?
I don't know. It could change. This is like
Yeah.
preliminary. Who knows if it leaves streaming shit like that? But we were talking about shit when I was like, "Hey, you're picking next." Like, if you and Mac want to decide who picks, like Christmas or fucking November,
Oh,
like
that was the
whatever.
mistake saying you and Mac.
Well, technically, like they're next, so I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
let you two pick. Like, if one of you like, because I felt like Tiffany was gonna be like, "Oh, I'll do Christmas." That seems like suck for whatever reason in my mind. Tiffany would have wanted to do, but she's like, "Nope, doing this." I was like, "Oh God." I was like, "You'll have to wait until closer to Thanksgiving for that pick." All right.
Well, we're essentially there, so
Yeah, we're a month away. What a fucking bad year.
yeah.
We'll see if the fucking United States still exists by then.
Yeah, honestly, don't know.
Everything's bad.
Can't say.
Everybody have a bad time. That's what
No,
I'm
have
doing.
have a good time because it's bad.
Yeah,
Go
it's
watch some Ghost Adventures to
don't do that.
lighten your mood, lighten your spirits.
Go watch 90 Day Fiance.
I
That shit sucks and
actually,
it's terrible and I love it.
I I'm actually feeling like I knew I said that I was like withholding Demon House because I wanted to do it with Kit, but now I'm actually thinking that maybe I want him to do this other episode that I was telling you about. That was episode 2 of season 28. Because I assume I've never talked to Kit about Ghost Adventures, but I assume he's never seen it. So to me, this other episode might be even better. I'll have to think about
We'll
it.
just do both of them as an episode.
Yeah, I might as
By
yeah,
Kit, you have to
yeah.
watch one episode of this TV show and then Demon House. Also, were you aware that Zach Baggins is a writer of a horror movie on here, or is credited as a writer on The Haunted Museum, Three Ring Inferno?
Oh yes, I did know. I is it out? I knew that it was a
It
thing,
said
but
2022 on Letterboxd, and people have logged it, but I don't know if it's streaming for free anywhere.
I'll have to look into it.
There was that, and
Wow.
then we're gonna have to do an episode on. I gotta get back to it. Uh, Netherworld, exploring Paris catacombs. Zach Baggins
Oh,
heads to the catacombs of Paris to investigate numerous of paranormal stuff. That's
no,
badly
thank
written.
you. Yeah.
How is
He
this
probably
the
wrote
Travel
it.
Channel?
Your guess is as good as mine,
What happened to
honestly.
TV?
It got good. That's what happened.
Yeah, I guess TLC's airing the most insane shit. And
Yup.
all right, I hope you pronounce your name differently every time you say it, like Zach Baggins, Bagans,
Bagel
Boggins,
bites. Boggins. That's
Boogans,
a good one. Ooh,
Zach Boogans. The Y.
Zachary Alexander Boogans.
Is his middle name actually Alexander? Or are you just making that up?
No, it actually
I feel like
is.
like people would just like throw a fake name in there.
Yes, I do know, but it is actually Alexander.
Zach Baggins, come on the podcast, despite all the mean things to say about you.
Zab, Zab.
Yeah, there you go. Sab.
He's gonna sue. One day, somehow, this is gonna get to his ears, and he's gonna sue us for defamation of his character or
I
whatever.
don't.
Defamation.
I would just literally go to court and just put on an episode of a show and just point at it.
Just like gesture.
Like, this dude lost his goddamn mind over some crackers. Like, listen to him play this flute.
The disrespect. The flute. I am not even kidding. That really made my day. The flute.